from Paranormal Activity. Hard name to say, pretty cool podcast. We're going to be talking about a topic that I know a lot about, but I've not had a lot of experience with. We're going to be talking about children who are in tune with the paranormal. And with me today are Melissa and Jill. Hello,
Hey guys,
ladies. How are
Hello
you?
there.
we are great. We
Yeah.
survived this hurricane tropical storm, and now we're here live with you.
Yes, we didn't lose our power, thankfully.
Whew.
That is awesome. Like, that's the worst thing about a storm. I don't even care if it's a hurricane. It could be a tropical storm, a tropical depression. It comes in. You don't know if a tree is sturdy and is going to knock your power lines off. And then
It's
you're
so
out of
true.
power for a month.
Mhm.
Pretty much.
Because,
And then we won't know if we're delusional. We're actually seeing the ghosts,
Yeah.
right?
There you go. It's so true. You won't know.
yeah, because honestly, the power company down here takes forever to do anything. I don't know how it
Mhm.
is up there, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah.
We-
There's like only one power company that provides all of Long Island. So
Yep,
once
and
you're
they-
out, you're out.
Yep, you're done. You're screwed.
Oh man. So let's talk about some children that are in tune with the paranormal because I have a few questions because like I said, I've never had kids. I don't know. I never had any of these experiences when I was a kid, and I know my sister didn't, to my knowledge. So I'm interested in it, but I've never actually had any experience with it. So how do you know when your child is in tune with the paranormal?
I don't think it's as black and white necessarily. I
Mhm.
think you know your kid, and I know there are definitely kids out there that like to make up stuff, and they have a creative imagination.
Mhm.
That like you
Imaginary friend. Or,
Yeah, like, but in my case, like, my imaginary friends weren't imaginary, I think, I think the first step is to not discredit your kid. If your kid is coming up to you, especially in fear, saying, "Listen, something's here, something's, bothering me,"
Mhm.
where like, I think you have to kind of, I think it's important to know your kid. B, I think it's not to be in denial, just to write it off. Oh, no, 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 you're imagining it, and I think you need to kind of open communication with your kids. I think the more communication you have with them, they're more likely to
Mhm.
want to open up to you and go up to you. And that's when you can also, I think, in my opinion, kind of know if they're,
It's real. Like if they're
yeah,
really, yeah.
if they're imagining it, or if they
Mhm.
are, seeing something. Our babies are young. My
Exactly. Yeah.
daughter just turned 1, so she's not talking, but like I
Yeah.
definitely have noticed her looking at things where I'll see like a shadow in her room on the monitor, and then she'll get up, you know. And I've also, I've been intuitive since, I mean, I remember seeing things when I was like 6, 7 years old. That's what I can recall. I don't know if it's
Mhm.
been earlier than that, but I've been told by many psychics that I've seen that she's very intuitive. So, I mean, me personally, she comes up to me, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, yes, there's monsters. There's underneath the bed. There's different tactics. I want to, first of all, have her be able to come up to me and feel that she could tell me this type of stuff. And also, I want to be able to make her not afraid as
Yeah.
well.
No, it's true. You feel like a lot of parents, like if you hear that, you're you kind of like turn it away from you're like, oh no, and then the child maybe blocks it off and then they won't experience any of that again. But that's why, like you said, having that open communication, having them draw you a picture of what they're seeing, having a dialogue, then you can really tell if it's something that they're truly experiencing or is it just their creative imagination.
Yeah. And I don't think you should be like, you know, if your kid comes up to you saying, Mommy, there's, a monster underneath my bed, being like, oh, yeah, Charlie, there is a monster. Like,
Yeah.
not to be
You don't
like,
want to traumatize the
yeah,
poor child. Yeah.
exactly. I think there's different tactics that you can
Yes.
definitely do to help them.
Mhm.
Like what? Like what are some tactics you can use to say your child is laying in bed and he's talking to his grandpa that has been dead? Like, do you tell him that's your grandpa or
You know, um, if I have a feeling that that is a loved one that passed away,
Mhm.
I would, it's obviously going to be scary because if you see a ghost, I mean, even at our age of 30, like we're still going to shit our pants. I mean, it's still scary, so
Of
about
course,
like,
yeah.
even if it's, someone nice and they come off very loving and warm to them. I mean, for my daughter Charlotte, I would, kind of explain to her and be like, my grandma passed away, and I think that shortly before she was conceived, and I think that she has a connection with my grandma. That's who I think comes and visits her. That's just my personal belief that's going on with my daughter. You know, Once she gets older and she could fully, understand, I want to be telling her, talking about my grandma as much as I can with her and relaying all the good stories and all the good times that I had with my grandma and just, keep reinforcing that, she's here watching out for you. She misses you. She didn't get to spend time with you when she was earthbound, so she just, right now she has all the time in the world. So she wants to, be there
Mhm.
for you, show pictures,
Yeah, make it
sometimes like
positive, not
yeah, and
like a
sometimes
scary.
like they'll see a picture and they're like, "Oh, I talk to her all the time.
Mhm.
That's the man coming in, and visiting me with the hat on." Sometimes they even point out stuff to you, and that should be like your number one cue or a number one clue that they're seeing that person.
Mhm.
So I think positive reinforcement and basically making them feel that that this person is a loved one, it's a family member, to be you know, okay with it. But you also got to kind of see, I think, in my opinion, the relationship that you're having. I have a friend that has a daughter that is about 3 or 4 years old, and she was telling me that about maybe the time of 2 years old, her daughter was seeing her grandma, who she was named after. And at first the experiences like were positive. Her daughter would be laughing. Her daughter, would be like would see the ghost or spirit. And I say
Mhm.
spirit. Well, actually, we don't even know exactly what it is, but I'll get more into that. And she would just be very excited, getting up in the crib and clapping her hands and all this stuff. And she actually reached out to me before we even had our podcast, but she knew I was into this type of stuff. And, she asked me for help. And she goes, this has been going on for 2 years. She doesn't come all the time, but we just have came accustomed that it's, my grandma visiting her. And she goes, but lately, my daughter has been really, really afraid at night. Like, she would start off clapping. It's like, if your kid sees you walks into the room, they
Mhm.
acknowledge you, they get excited. It'd be something like that. But then she would get very, very scared. She would be immediately hiding underneath the covers. She would be screaming like bloody murder. Like you could tell like she was harmed and she was terrified. And she goes, I don't know what to do. So of course, I advised her on ways to cleanse this spirit or demon or whatever the heck it was visiting her daughter. And the reason why I say I don't know exactly if that was necessarily the grandma the whole time or if it was never the grandma, because I personally think that demons, bad spirit, I mean, worse spirits, and this debate if demons exist, but if spirits, they kind of take
Mhm.
on something that will make you comforted, and then they get you to trust them, and then they kind of reveal their true colors. So
Mhm.
in that case, that's hopefully a situation that no one encounters, because to me that just sounds
Yeah.
terrifying, and I hope
Oh,
my
yeah.
grandma doesn't do that stuff to my daughter. But that's a whole different ball game, though. But I definitely have seen, also from other people telling me very similar things. And when they come out to ask me for advice, because personally I'm like the crazy one that loves this type of stuff. Everyone reaches out to me. I say the same thing as I'm reiterating now. Basically, you know, reiterate to your kid, show them that this is a loved one, someone positive, and also get them to, if they don't want to see grandma anymore, or a spirit that is somewhat nice, but they've had enough of, to kind of like my daughter, for example, has her Charlie doll that she sleeps with, so I have a feeling that that's going to stick around for a while.
Mhm.
That's going to be her safety. So when she gets older and she can kind of talk and understand what I'm saying, you know, I want her to kind of put in the mindset that Charlie, because kids have an imaginaire, a creative mind to begin with, that Charlie's going to be like her knight in shining armor. If
Yeah, her protector. Like, yep.
exactly, so if something's bothering her, or if she is scared, to basically just be like, I'm okay. Charlie's here to protect me. Nothing can and nothing will physically harm me. And then we actually learned that from having a couple of guests on our podcast.
Yeah.
Um, so that's definitely something that I do want to. So
Stress with that. Yeah.
yeah,
that's
once I get
important.
to the appropriate
Yeah.
age.
Okay. So now let's talk about your podcast a little bit. We kind of jumped over that before in the intro and kind of delved right into this because I'm just a curious person in nature. So go ahead and tell everybody about your podcast, where they can find it, and what it's all about.
Yeah, our podcast is Paranormal Activity. We are on Spotify and iHeartRadio. You can follow us on Instagram, exactly how it sounds like Paranormal, Paramomal Activity Podcast. Me and Jill,
Yeah.
we're two brand new moms. We met in a Facebook group.
Not even that long ago. Like,
Yeah, like
we connected
less
right
than a
away.
year,
Yeah.
and we're like, I was actually going up to Boston with my husband and my daughter, and I was staying in a haunted hotel, and the Omni Parker up in Boston, and I posted about it. So we just started
Yeah.
becoming friends.
Like, I
and
was intrigued that because I like to stay at like places that, say have a haunted background to them. And
we just started talking, and we both love the paranormal. We both love wine, and we're like, listen, like I'm like, I want to start a podcast. I need someone that has
Yeah.
a great personality that loves this type of stuff. I'm like, would you be in? And she's like, yeah. And
And then that's how,
Yeah.
our daughters became like
oh
best
my God, they're
friends.
best friends. Best friends. It's
Yeah.
so cute.
So
So
it's cool.
yes.
And well, also, I guess to just reiterate on that too, but our podcast, we explore like different cases each
Yes.
week, which it's really cool. So, Melissa, you'll usually find a case, or some of the stuff I find.
Yeah, we
is-
both equally find. We
But
have
it's great.
Yeah, it's good to be able to have someone that like loves this type of stuff, and to kind of rewind, recording for about an hour a week, where
Yeah.
a couple episodes a week just to relax,
Exactly.
talk about the stuff with with someone that loves the stuff as much as you
Mhm.
do, and not have to deal with snot and poop all over you. It's great.
Take a break from momhood. For
Yes.
a minute.
I understand that kind of. It's kind of like putting the job away for a little
Yeah.
while. Yeah. So my question to you is, whenever you guys travel, because you said you were going to that haunted place in Boston.
Yes.
Do you search for haunted places to stay at, like when you travel?
My husband's like not as crazy as I am about this type of stuff. I think over the past like 2 years I've been more like kind of really pushing to do more of this stuff. But like like we were going to Boston because we were visiting my sister-in-law who just gave birth. She lives up in Boston, and like we're gonna hang out in the city for a couple of days before like seeing them. And I told my husband, I'm like, I want to stay at the Omni Parker. I mean, I've done tons of ghost tours up in Boston, which are awesome, and I've heard all about it. It's haunted. I want to stay there.
Yeah.
He was like, he's like, if you want to stay there. But my husband, he could sleep through anything, and he'll sleep through everything. I mean, he slept through tons of noises in our living room, and I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
But he was like, I don't think he was like that excited to stay there, but I was. It was like during COVID, obviously, so I wasn't able to get like necessarily the room that I would want to stay in, or more the haunted floor. But it was cool nonetheless.
There's a lot. Like, I visited Savannah when I went there. We did all the ghost tours, which I said we have to go there one day.
Yeah, we're planning on
Yes.
doing trips soon.
And no, it was a great time. I didn't personally experience anything while I was there, but I loved just hearing all the different stories. And we looked at, we went to the cemetery at night and the different buildings there where supposedly maybe it was a murder or something happened, and all that just intrigues me. My husband, not so much, kind of like, how Kev is, Trav's the same way, but he goes along with it, so it works.
Yeah, they don't have a choice at the end of
Yes.
the day, right?
It's true.
So yeah, when I go on vacation with my wife, what we do is she'll tell me where she wants to go. I'll search for like a haunted hotel or something like that. Don't even tell her. I'm like, we're staying
That's
here.
a good idea, because
That is a good idea.
he wouldn't know. But
Yeah.
like the other day, we were laying in bed and we heard this big crash, and like I knew it wasn't anything falling because we have stuff that's secured to the wall, and when it has fallen, I know that sound. And he goes,
Mhm.
"What is that?" I'm like, "Well, what the fuck do you think that is?" I'm like, "I've been trying to tell you this house has been haunted for some time. You just don't believe me." I'm like, All right, well, then he went
Sure.
back to sleep. He didn't care.
Didn't phase him,
No,
no.
well, not me. I was like, I had the covers up to my face. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
guess it's gonna be this type of night.
It's true.
So back to children who experience the paranormal. Do you think that kids can experience past lives and have past life regression and actually be able to uh, re- basically relive their past life?
I think that I personally think that's a personal belief that you have. I know some people believe in reincarnation, and some people just close the door on that immediately. Personally, for me, I think so for sure. I've seen. I mean, I've watched all these like documentaries, like YouTube clips, all that stuff. I find that stuff so fascinating. Um, there's just some things that just like you have no words for. You can't explain like how some of these kids they have the same exact mark as a person that they're claiming to be, like the same birthmark, or they'll have a birthmark in the place that they like if someone
Yeah.
got shot, like there was a brutal death, like they'll have like a giant birthmark there. I don't know. I I ha- I would personally say yes. I do believe in that. I don't have any personal experience in that. Maybe one day I will.
Yeah.
I'm hoping not with my daughter, but
No, but no, I agree with you. I do think so. They can definitely experience something like from their past life.
yeah, that's a whole different ball game. I mean, my advice if you feel that your kid is really experiencing something like that. In the episode that we're about to release tomorrow, our story that we give in the
Mm,
beginning from Reddit, um, basically discusses something very similar where the kid, I think she was what, 4?
yes.
She was like 4 at the time and claimed that she was in her grandmother's stomach when I guess she was asking her mom, I guess like where like babies come from, and it happened to be the grandma happened. I know it's a little bit confusing the way that I'm saying it, but the grandma happened to have a it wasn't a miscarriage, right? It was a
Was stillborn, yeah.
stillborn where the baby died, and this daughter that was alive and present, 4 years old, was able to. She was like, "Oh yeah, I choked in there. Like I like remember, it wasn't my time to
Yeah.
come, but now it's like now it's my time." So I mean, to me that's a whole other like level
Mhm.
of like spookiness, but not like in a creepy
Oh
like type
yeah.
of way. It's like a different kind of goosebump type of feeling. My advice would be that there are people that do specialize out there in past life regressions. I would when they get a little bit older, I don't know, at the age of 4, I would bring someone like to a psychic like that, but listen to what they have to say. And what I see in the movies is they research the crap out of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like the parents always end up like I forget what's that movie? It's a horror movie where it's not The Omen, or maybe it is. I don't like no, it's not The Omen. My God, I'm brain farting.
With the
There was a movie where the kid had was reincarnated with like this he happened to be like a crazy, I think, murderer. It was
I can't
crazy, but
think.
like I just remember like the scene of the mom just like actively researching and like
Yeah.
basically going by the facts that the kid was saying. Like 'cause they'll tell you like when they were born, where they grew up, how they died. Like the kid, like especially at that age when they're young, they're blunt. They'll tell you everything. My
Mhm.
advice would be take all that in Google. You'll
Yeah.
find out who your kid is.
So, what kind of experiences have you guys had with your kids or even yourselves so far?
With my daughter who's only 1, I've definitely felt my grandma presence around her. In the beginning newborn phase, like when they're very like you can't calm them down. They're in the middle of the night, like you can't get them back to bed. Type of colic fun that we went through. There were times where I just wanted to be like, and I just would feel like how my grandma would be kind of like behind me. I would feel her presence and being like, I guess like telling my daughter to calm down. Like I had that sixth sense feeling, and like my daughter would instantly calm down, and she'd be like looking like past my shoulder, so I know that she saw what I was feeling. Other times I've seen figures in her room through the monitor, which I'm always pissed because I can never get my phone out in time. It's always like very fast. It's not like
You have sent us something though where there was like the orbs you could
yeah,
see
yeah.
very
There was
clearly.
orbs.
Yeah.
Like a couple of days there'll be like an orb figure like kind of circling around who would be rocking my daughter like in the rocking chair right next to her crib, and like during the day it wouldn't be there. It would disappear too. It wouldn't be there like all night. So it wasn't a technical difficulty of the camera. But so I'm interested to see what she has to say and tell me as she gets older. Like
Yeah.
I very interested. Do you notice anything with Kelsey yet?
So there is my mother-in-law passed away it was like about 7 years ago now. And so obviously my daughter, she's only 10 months, so she never met her. But her name does come from my mother-in-law's name. We kind of like did a little spin-off of it. And in her room, we have a picture of my mother-in-law. And one day we were like, you know what? I was like, I told my husband, I was like, we should really start like showing her this picture more and more and just like talking about her, all the stories. And when we took the picture down the one day and we brought it in the playroom, she like instantly was looking at the picture, smiling and waving. I have a video of her doing she grabbed the picture and starts literally was kissing it. And I was like, oh my God, we both got the chills because I was like, I feel like I mean, we have pictures in the house. She's never gone up to another picture and kissed it before. So I'm like, this is like this, like, I just felt like she already knows her or it, just watching her, she had this like look of joy. And now we make sure we keep that picture always in her room, like where it's almost like looking at her when she sleeps at night. And yeah, it looked so positive. I hope it continues to stay that way. And again, as they get older, obviously now being so young, they can't verbally tell us what they're experiencing, but just by that reaction, by her waving and smiling and kissing the picture, I take that as she definitely has some sort of a connection with her already. So hopefully we'll see more as she gets older.
Yeah, and like for me, I know I've had personal experiences from
Yes,
what
I
I
know
can
you
remember,
have. Yeah.
6 or 7. So it could be possibly earlier that I just don't remember. So I mean, I'm definitely going to be like more on edge.
Hmm.
Like if my daughter looks at something at the wall, I'll probably be the type of person that's like, "What did you see? Or do you see something?" Like I don't know, 'cause I just feel like if you're really not into spiritual, all the spirit stuff, and I just feel like you kind of miss out on that time to really communicate with your kid when they're at the prime of really being, really seeing this stuff, because it said that they have that veil up until they get to a certain point where it's kind of like they're very, in tune with the paranormal. I mean, with me, my first experience was when I moved into my house, and it was just built. It was like a brand new house that was just built. So I mean, there was people living there previously, but not in that actual house. It was on the same land, and I just like remember like going up to my room for the first time, and my dog at the time was just barking like non-stop at my closet, and I didn't think anything of it because she was a mutt, so sometimes they get spooked by different things. Like she was just happy. She was known to be a barker, so I didn't think anything of it. Then
Hmm.
like literally, she's like barking for like 20 minutes, and my dad's like screaming up, enough, enough, and I was like on the other side of my room, so I tuned her out, and I turn around and her hair is like literally sticking up like we never seen her with her hair like sticking up unless she's like actually seen like a dog because she hated other dogs, but like it was like her eyes were popping out. She was a German Shepherd and her hair was sticking up straight, like something was there. And like I just remember seeing like this like black figure. At first I thought I was just like imagining it, and then like whatever, so I was like I ran out, and then I come back in for whatever reason, and like I saw like the black figure made started turning more into like like a person. And when I say it was like a little, definitely like a little girl, it looked like that was it.
Yeah.
I had trouble sleeping in that room for God knows how long, you know. And then that was also at the age of American Girl dolls, and they would sleep in my room, and this a lot of shit would
Oh, those
happen with them.
American
I
Girl
hate
dolls.
dolls. I
Yeah.
hate them.
I know you hate dolls because my daughter has this one doll that I swear every morning she
No,
like there's a million toys in her play area and she darts over to that doll and she's like hugging it and kissing the doll. And whenever you walk over, come over, I mean, you're like, get that doll out of
I
here.
hate dolls. I mean,
I don't know.
thank God I never actually saw them
Yeah.
move, but like they would wake up in different, well, not wake up, they weren't sleeping, but I would wake up and they'd be like in different positions, but not like so obvious. Like it's just
Yeah.
it's very subtle. Like it just and my mom would always be like, I paid all this money for these dolls, so like they're staying in your room. And thank God she let me get them out of there like
Hmm.
not too long. But yeah, so I mean I ever since then
Yeah.
I've been experiencing some stuff. I wish
So
I was like more in tune to kind of really know exactly like to communicate, but I'm not at that level.
Yeah. See, I personally, as a child, I don't recall at least that I had any instances. I mean, I probably should ask my parents again because I feel like they'd be the type that would dismiss it if I did.
Yeah,
Because I know the way like my mom is terrified of like anything. She does not like horror movies. Like if anything I said, she probably would have been like, nope, nope. And that would have been that. But yeah, I haven't actually personally experienced it. But again, like we said, I'm so intrigued by hearing the stories and researching it. And then you had your stories like you just told right now, that one.
yeah, and like
I
my
love it.
mom was the type of person too. If I would tell her, oh, I saw
Hmm.
this where I can't sleep because of this, she would just give me like a Jesus card and put it like underneath my pillow, and that would wear rosary beads and would be like, good luck. And I'm like,
Yes,
that traumatized me even more.
exactly.
so what was it like growing up, being able to see all this and have all this happen to you and not be able to know what really was going on or have anybody really believe you?
Terrible. Like so, obviously before I was at the age before I would start, watching scary movies, but then like I was allowed to start seeing them like probably around 8 or 9.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, I guess this stuff is real. Like, this stuff is, but then like it would scare me because I started watching Chucky, like all the child's plays,
Oh,
and like I was noticing stuff with my dolls, and I'm like, oh my God, she's gonna kill me. Like it was like terrible. Like that Samantha, it was a Samantha American Girl doll. It was absolutely terrifying. That's why like I'm very big and we're very like big on getting the word out there because I feel like a lot of people are kind of like our parents, like, oh no, 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 you're not seeing anything. Like even like to this day, like we have friends that are like something's remotely spooky. They're like, nope, the other way. I'm like, you can't turn your head on this stuff. It exists,
yeah.
whether or not you want to admit it. So that's from my approach to raising my daughters would be 100% different than my parents, and I don't blame them. Like they didn't like my dad is atheist and my mom was Catholic, so this was like
Hmm.
not their realm. I'm completely like the opposite of them. So I'm that's why I think it's important, at least for for people to come to us or to be kind of an outlet for people like think their kid is seeing something. Like my best
Yeah.
friend who doesn't believe in this stuff whatsoever. She like reached out to me a couple months ago and she's like, oh, my son who just turned 3. She's like, oh, he says there's a ghost over there. But I'm like, I'm like, okay, well, to see if he brings it up again. Because he like, if he's not bringing it up again, maybe like he's the type of kid that may be trying to get your attention. So and he never brought it up again. And I asked her, I'm like, well, showing any signs of being scared, and she said nope. So I'm like, okay, well, that's like just because a kid cries that there's a ghost or points there,
Doesn't always
yeah,
mean it. Like,
you don't have
yeah.
to start taking out the salt and the sage and start preparing yourself for an apocalypse of ghosts.
Yeah.
But I think definitely take cues from your kid.
Yeah, and like you said, you don't wanna have to if Char's experiencing something, you don't want her to have to go through it alone, kinda like how you had
Yeah,
to
I
face
went
your
to
fears alone, you
yeah,
wanna.
exactly. And and I mean I had psychic readings when I was pregnant, even before I did. My daughter came to me, not only me, but like random people that I was like somewhat acquaintances with at work. Like my one coworker, I remember like I literally found out I was pregnant like on a Friday, and so that Monday. So obviously I was like 4 weeks pregnant or 5 weeks. So it was like I didn't tell anybody. So my coworker that I was friends with, but she wouldn't be the first person that I would tell that I was pregnant. Like
Mhm.
until I was
Yeah.
ready, she comes up to me and she goes, I'm not trying to be like invasive or anything, because she was older, and she goes, I had a dream, like, and I really feel like it's real. You're pregnant.
Oh
And I'm
gosh, you
like,
must
well,
have been.
no shit. It was crazy. And then like I always like all my friends like make fun of me for this because I was like always like I'm having a boy, I'm having a boy. I really felt in my gut for the most part I was having a boy. And then she comes up to me and she goes, well, your daughter came up to me in a dream and wanted to let you know that you're actually having a girl, not a boy. I was like, and that was I think like 2 or 3 days before like the gender reveal. So I was like, maybe I am having a girl. And then
Lo and
And
behold,
then
there you
yeah,
go.
there you
Yeah.
go. Exactly. I had a girl, so I was like, it was crazy. And then like she would always like, and then COVID hit, and we were all working from home and everything. She would still text me here and there, being like, "Oh, your daughter's fine. She's just chilling." She goes, "I don't think you're gonna like give birth on the day that like you think that you're gonna give birth." All this stuff. It was crazy. So again, I had a couple of dreams with her, but nothing to the extent of my random coworker did. So of course I'm hearing that. I'm like, crap, the spirit is strong. Like she's gonna be very, very intuitive. So I mean, my husband's definitely more on like the parent, like my parents, But thank God she'll be coming to mommy.
There
So
you go. She'll confide in you.
she's a mommy's girl right
Yeah.
now. So hoping it stays that way.
So did you find it hard to make friends growing up, or did that, you know, kind of help the little barrier you had with your parents? Making
Um,
friends and talking about everything.
I'm a sensitive soul, so I get like I get I feel things very very easily and hard. I always had friends. Once in a while I catch a friend that was interested in the stuff that I was. I mean, I wasn't like very like. I mean, I wouldn't have like a play date. Like if I met like little Jill, I wouldn't be like, "Oh, Jill, there's a ghost in here."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to scare like other kids. And I'm like, people don't believe in this stuff. So if you're like,
Yeah. No, I
"Oh,
know.
my house is haunted. You want to come over and have some tea?" Like people are like, "Fuck no."
That's the first thing I would say.
Exactly. Like, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like, I think people they associate ghosts and spirits with being bad, and they're not always bad. So,
No, they're absolutely not. I actually lived in a few haunted places, and they never really bothered me. But I didn't do anything to, provoke anything either.
yeah,
Mhm.
So it was more of
True.
a you do you, I do me, and we'll just be cool.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly that's normally how it goes.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. Oh my God, the story is popping up. 'Cause my mom, I don't know why I didn't bring this up, but my mom, she's very Catholic, very religious. So she came home one day. This is like before I moved out with now my husband. So I was still living at home, and she comes home, and I'm like, what the hell happened to you? I'm like, it looks like you saw a ghost. She goes, I think I did. I'm like, what are you talking about? So she went to her friend's house, and her friend had a relative that passed away, and for some reason her and her daughter's friends did some kind of seance. Okay, well, it went
Jesus.
bad. I don't know why they did a seance. I don't like know. I forget which friend this was of my mom's. They did a seance, and like basically they noticed that night that the lights started flickering on and off. They're like, "Fuck no, we're ending this." They probably didn't even end it the right way. They don't even know what the hell they were doing. So, and then I think the next day or two, my mom's friend is showering, and she sees like as like the fog is condensing, it's going back to normal. She sees like the most scariest photo in the world, and like of like a pure demon looking back at her. And she took a picture of it. My mom saw. I didn't see it, but like my mom would never obviously take a picture of that on her phone because God forbid. But I, I definitely believe my mom was my mom walking in looked like she saw like 17 ghosts
Yeah.
and was like,
Yeah. And coming from her,
yeah,
she wouldn't make
no,
something up like that because she's not even a firm like believer in it. And so,
exactly. But
yeah.
now my mom's the type of person that if you were to ask her now if you remember that, she'd be like, no, what are you talking about? I never heard that. Like,
She blocks it out.
yeah, pretty much.
So, what advice would you give to parents who want to find out if their kids are, into the paranormal? Because I feel that today's parents, they're more of a here's a video game, here's a YouTube video, here's a this, leave me alone so I can do this.
Um, I wouldn't go seeking things. I would personally for me, I advise to listen up. If you, like I said before, if your kid comes to you, if your kid's seeing something, if your kid is seeing something, they're gonna end up telling you, where they're gonna make it known, even if it's like subtle signs of acting out or behavioral changes.
Hmm.
Something is up. If behavioral changes are, kind of try to see what's going on with them. Create a comfort zone where they could literally tell you anything. That's like that they told you. Like I'm talking to the point where they're like, okay, I farted 5 seconds ago. Like you want them to be able to obviously as
Yeah.
a parent, you want them to be able to tell you everything and anything,
Yeah.
just to keep that up and not to push them off to the side. Now in regards to like technology and everything like that, that's definitely going to be interesting because we had like all the technology growing up, but it wasn't like
To the extent it
yeah,
is
we
now.
weren't
Yeah.
like glued to that. I don't know if now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like just thinking of like a little boy playing like video games and him just being engulfed in it. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It's I think it's interesting to think maybe like his that could be like maybe if he sees something, he's not gonna really be like, oh my god, I'm seeing something because he's so used to
Yeah, that almost
that different
like
world.
inhibits their imagination in a sense. And, their maybe that sense that they have is kind of being diminished
Yeah,
with all of
and
this
also
technology.
yeah, and also when you give kids like tablets and stuff like that, like you don't know what the heck they're like research what they're like looking up on YouTube and
Oh, yeah.
stuff like that. Like, obviously parental controls are like your own discretion, But I would kind of, if it, if your kid is basically, glued to some form of internet video game where like they're literally glued, I would kind of maybe looking to see like what they're around. Like, okay, like what video game are they playing? Like, is it a monster video game?
Yes.
Okay, maybe that's why he's claiming to see monsters, where this and bothering him. Kind of maybe dig and kind of see what they're surrounding themselves with. Maybe if you could go check on the browser, okay, well, my kid was YouTubing dead bodies,
Mhm.
because like kids are gonna do that because they think it's cool, and especially when they know they shouldn't be doing that, they want to do it even more. My advice to you and that, my advice to any parent in that type of situation would be kind of surround yourself with what your kid is going through on a day-to-day basis, what video games they play with, what
Yeah.
imaginary
Yeah. And almost like
things.
share your own stories too with them so that they know, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
instead of not, I mean, obviously you want them to open up to you, but you open up to them so that they see that we're just as much human as they are and what we feel, they might feel. It's easier for them to make a connection that way sometimes.
yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, ladies, I appreciate you coming on to talk about this. Like I said, it's one of those topics that I'm really interested in. I have a lot of fun talking about it. And it's because I didn't grow up like that. I kind of wish I did, but I totally didn't. And I'm bummed out about that, to be honest. I really am. That's something I really wish that I could have had happen, either being like a reincarnated state or even just being able to see, you know, uh, stuff that most people don't.
Well, we'll keep you posted if any of our daughters
Yeah.
are reincarnated. My daughter, the reason why I also feel like she's so connected to my grandma's. My grandma passed on August 17th of August 17th of 2019, and my due date was August 18th of 2020. So like a year after that. I even told my mom like when first found out I was pregnant, I just felt like if I was having a girl,
Yeah.
it was to be connected to my grandma somehow. And she was
Hmm.
always badgering me about having for me to have kids or great grandkids. But
Yeah.
like I personally believe in the whole reincarnated thing. So we'll see.
Yeah. See where it unfolds, how the story goes.
If we have any reincarnated stories, we'll hit you up.
Yes.
Well, tell everybody one more time what your podcast is, where they can find you, and anything else that you would find important.
Yeah, we're Melissa and
I'm Jill.
we're,
Yep.
we're Paranormal Activity Podcast. Again, that is PARAMOMAL Activity Podcast. You'll find us directly on Instagram. That's where we let you
Mhm.
guys know whenever we do have a brand new episode. We are on Spotify, iHeartRadio. We do have a YouTube channel as well with a couple of videos of our interviews that we have done. We've interviewed a couple of celebrity psychics. I definitely recommend checking out those videos. Again, that's the same as our podcast, same Paranormal Activity Podcast. Find us on YouTube, Instagram. Follow us on Spotify as well. That way you get the instant notification whenever we do upload an episode. We actually have an episode coming to you guys at 7:30 tomorrow morning,
Mhm.
bright and early. On Haunted Disney World and Disneyland. So we have definitely found definitely a couple of spooky stories about the most magical place in the world. Well, two of them. So we're two new moms. We love talking about anything paranormal. We love researching this stuff. Every week we have new episode on spooky places, and
Yeah.
like, supposedly haunted houses. We dig into them, we give you the facts, and we kind of discuss if we think it's real or not. And we do plan on traveling soon to some places. We have a couple
Yeah.
places, hopefully in the works, but we're just trying to balance out mom life as well with doing that. So we're just trying to
Exactly.
figure everything out.
Yep.
So I'm really interested in this Disneyland thing because I never even thought about
Yeah.
that Disneyland being haunted.
Disneyland's
And
more haunted. Disneyland is more haunted than Disney World. But I'm actually going to Disney World in 2 months in October, and I'm excited
You
to.
got to test it out now.
Yeah, there's like a
Yep.
couple of ghosts that you could provoke at Disney World, which I'm going to be doing. So, because that's just me, I don't care. So, but no, Disneyland is actually very, very haunted. You wouldn't think so, Not like I don't think they're haunting goers as like we're not talking like the Amityville Horror House
No.
type of haunting. They're more of like I mean, they've had tragedies happen at both parks, but they're more of ghosts that just tend to warn, where ghosts are just there and saying hello and
A little more subtle than some of
yeah,
the other
a
stuff.
little
Yep.
more, yeah. It's Disney World. They can't be too crazy.
Exactly.
well, I am looking forward to hearing that tomorrow. And how often do you release?
Every Monday, for the
Every-
most part. We've had a few hiccups, just for mom life. Our babies were sick, stuff like that.
Mhm.
But every Monday we try to get an episode up for everybody, and
Yeah.
about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning.
Awesome. Well, I thank you ladies once again for joining me, and you have a wonderful evening.